Hello everybody, welcome back to Norwich Talk for another transfer related video. Rather than a rumour this time, it is a confirmation. Norwich City have confirmed that Jack Stacey will be joining from Bournemouth on a free transfer when his contract with the Cherries expires. A transfer that at surface level, yeah, seems pretty good. We keep wheeling out the saying, don't we? Low risk, high reward with these free transfers. They are waters that Norwich City have very clearly and maybe not publicly, but they have been swimming in. You look at the likes of Ashley Barnes, now Jack Stacey, and we've also made a video on Shane Duffy. When this transfer was teased by Norwich City on Twitter, I think a few of us thought, here comes Shane Duffy. But you could kind of see from the signature, it didn't look as if it was going to be him, and it wasn't. It was Jack Stacey. This transfer has seemingly gone fairly under the radar, which Norwich City seem to do that once every, so often with a signing, don't they, where it will just come out of the blue and from absolutely nowhere. But as you know, the format of this video will be what we know and a few of my thoughts on Jack Stacey. So diving into what we know about him, he is 27 years old, natively a right back, right wing back, whatever you want to call it in the modern game. I think if you say right back, that does encompass being a wing back as well nowadays. He's 5'9", he's English, and interestingly, he's 2 centimeters taller than Max Aarons, according to Google. Again, Google gets funny with heights. Like if you go on his Wikipedia page, for example, it says 180 centimeters, 5'11", and then if you Google what 180 centimeters is in feet, 5'9", which is a fair sort of difference in height. But he's a similar height to Max Aarons, and that's the first point really, which is quite interesting. And that mold, physically, that mold isn't really changing by the looks of it. He spent his youth career at the Mighty Ding, aka Reading. As I said, he will be joining on a free transfer, so you know in terms of a transfer fee, the expectation isn't there on his shoulders, as we know, and has been the case with Norwich City and spending money on players, no matter how much it is, when you have a transfer fee on your head, it will affect the expectation. A free transfer, Norwich City have seen poor ones before, we've seen fantastic ones, so it really could go any way. But looking at the experience that I have in front of me that I'm going to tell you about, it should be quite exciting. He'll be joining from Bournemouth, where he made 83 appearances. Prior to that, he was at Luton Town, where he made 86 appearances. I think there's 3 promotions in there, one with Bournemouth back to the Premier League, and 2 with Luton from League Two. I think they finished second, and then in League One they won the league to get into the Championship. So this man knows how to get promoted in English football. He played a fairly key role, well, if you're judging it by appearances, in all of those campaigns. One thing that I will immediately say is that he's made 30 Premier League appearances over 2 seasons for Bournemouth, and for Bournemouth in the Championship made 57 appearances over 2 seasons. Immediately my brain thought, oh, that's nowhere near as many as Max Aarons, in terms of the fact that Max Aarons just played so many games for Norwich. He never, ever really got injured properly anyway, at least. So I feel like with Max Aarons, he's done an interview recently saying it's time to move on, loves the club, but it's time to move. Stuart Webber said it's time for him to move. With him going, it's going to have to be right. Not every single player, and for the most part, most players don't have that percentage of being available for a match and actually playing in that match that Max Aarons has. It must be high 90s for Max Aarons for that. So I don't take too much concern from that. You look at his prior season, so the season that has just been, where Bournemouth were very, very impressive in the Premier League. He made 9 appearances. 7 of those were off the bench in the Premier League, so he's not really been particularly active this season. But, pardon me, sorry, as you will be able to tell from his comments, especially on Twitter, he's hungry for it. He mentioned an interesting point, 27 years old, entering his peak years as a footballer. He wants to be competing at the highest level. It's all well and good getting promoted with Bournemouth, but sitting on the bench in the Premier League and surviving is, well, it's a great achievement for the club, but as an individual, didn't really play a part in it, was second string to Marcus Tavernier. So, yeah, you know for a fact that he has and will have that hunger to get Norwich City promoted. And to be fair, as a free agent, you look at Norwich City, and their record of one, developing players, and two, getting into the Premier League and repaying the faith. You look at most Norwich City squads over the past few promotions, I think really the comparison between the starting Premier League team and the Championship team, it's usually fairly similar. So he might have looked at that. I definitely have, but he might have looked at that and thought, right, loyalties will be repaid, whether it's loyalty or not being able to afford anyone when we're in the Premier League. We don't know, but a lot of this transfer makes sense. And one of the first things I did was I went to sort of look at the replies to many tweets and then get maybe a feeling for how Bournemouth and maybe Luton fans feel about him. In terms of the description, it seemed a bit like Max Aarons in the fact that great on the front foot, not particularly great at crossing, but he'll get forward into dangerous positions. Can't really defend. And in terms of this not being able to defend as a fullback debate, I say debate like it's a massive debate, but I don't think many fullbacks really can defend these days. No fullbacks can really do both. You look at like Aaron Wan-Bissaka as an example. He can defend really well, but on the front foot, it's not particularly threatening. And then another Premier League example, Trent Alexander-Arnold on the front foot, amazing. Back foot, non-existent. For me, most fullbacks now either do one or the other, and it tends to be they are very good at attacking usually. So I think maybe don't be too frightened if you see those comments from Bournemouth fans about him perhaps not being great at defending, because Norwich City aren't great at defending. I don't think David Wagner's style is particularly set around being great at defending. It's going to be heavy metal. It's going to be Farke's first season. It's going to be how many goals can you score and how few can you concede, in the sense of it will be 3-2 wins, it will be 4-2 wins, hopefully, as opposed to perhaps Daniel Farke's second season where it was more sort of 2-0, 1-0 victories. But yeah, to be fair, that's kind of basically what I have on Jack Stacey. I don't really think he's too much different to Max Aarons. I think the quality will be less from Stacey. That's really not a problem, because for Max Aarons, he is a real talent, and it's going to leave a gaping hole in terms of quality in the 11. Him leaving, it's absolutely the right time for him to leave. One question that this does sort of raise is the idea of how is Bali Mumba going to be used in this squad for Plymouth, played predominantly as a left wing back. Again, a lot of people, a lot of Plymouth fans, say great on the front foot. He will adopt brilliant positions, but on the back foot, not really existent, which is interesting. And it does kind of, especially with Giannoulis recently being linked with moves away, and the idea that if Norwich are going to get any cash for Giannoulis, it probably is going to be now. It's interesting, this idea that Ballymumba might be used as a left back. I don't think the system that Wagner has planned, I don't think the system that Norwich should take going forward is a three at the back. So again, where does Ballymumba fit into all of this? However, one thing for sure is that if he is going to be a right back, it's competition, and hopefully they'll joust for that position, whatever side of the pitch it is, and sort of bring better performances out of each other. The classic fighting for the position. But Jack Stacey, a free player, very proven at this level, experience, which is really important for this Norwich City 11. Absolutely can't go wrong. And we're not here debating age this time. You look at like Shane Duffy and Ashley Barnes, who are north of 30, where we're thinking, oh, how sort of much time can we get out of these players? Jack Stacey, I think he turned 27 in January, entering his peak years. No issue at all with that for me. As you'd expect, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. How do you think this affects Ballymumba? How do you think he'll fit into this team in terms of Jack Stacey, and do you think he'll be similar to Max Aarons? I think, in my opinion, I think he will be, which is a fairly good thing. And any other business that you want Norwich City to do in this transfer window. It's a very vague question, but please go crazy in the comments down below. Thumbs up too if you appreciate, I would appreciate if you leave a thumbs up for the video. Subscribe too if you fancy it, and I'll see you again very, very soon.